Hello kids, I'm Priyanka and I'm back again with my new chapter, The Red-Headed Legue. Part 1, Mr. Wilson's story. When I called up my friend Mr. Sherlock Holmes, he was conversing with a visitor, who was an elderly man with a fiery red hair. Holmes introduced me to the visitor, Mr. Jabez Wilson. He was a pawnbroker. Holmes asked him to repeat his story for me. He began by showing us an advertisement in the newspaper. It read as followed: there is a vacancy for a member of Lakeview, and the salary is £4 a week for nominal services. Red-headed men may apply in person on Monday at 11 o'clock to Deacon's Rose at office of Lakeview 7 Feet Street. Advertisement had appeared in newspaper 2 months ago. Mrs. Wilson's assistant, Vincent Spaulding, had shown it to him. Mr. Wilson liked his assistant Spaulding. He was smart, efficient, and worked for only half an hour normal wage. But the assistant also had his fault. Every now and then he left work and went down to the cellar to develop photographs. Photograph was his hobby. Spaulding showing the advertisement to Mr. Wilson and explained to him that an American millionaire, Mr. Ezekiel Hopkins, has founded a famous red-headed legue to help him all redhead like himself. Spaulding urged like Mr. Wilson to apply for a job. So the two men of them went to the address giving the advertisement. Fleet Street was full of red-headed people. Mr. Wilson thought that with so much competition he would not get a job. He wanted to go back, but Spaulding pushed throughout the crowd and took Mr. to office. There was nothing in the office but a couple of chairs and a table. A red-headed man sitting behind the table. He was Mr. Duncan Rose. He represented the red-headed legue. He was very pleased to see Mr. Wilson and announced immediately that he was well suited for the job. He shook hands with Mr. Wilson, congratulated him, and told all the candidate to go back. Mr. Duncan Road explained that Mr. Wilson would have to go to office from 10 to 2. If he left the office, he could lose the job. Spaulding assured Mr. Wilson that he would look after Mr. Wilson's business in her absence. The pay was fixed at £4 a week. At the work and the work, said Mr. Wilson. You have a copy of our Encyclopedia Britannica. The pay was very good and the work was light. Mr. Wilson accepted the job and began to his work. The next day, Mr. Duncan Ross was there in the office to see that Mr. Wilson did his work properly and didn't leave the office. He told Mr. Wilson to start with the letter A. Mr. Wilson wrote diligently for 4 hours without leaving his space. Mr. Ross would drop in from time to time to see that all was right with Mr. Wilson. After 2 o'clock, he bade Mr. Wilson goodbye and locked the door of office. This went on day after day. Mr. Holmes, said Mr. Wilson on Saturday, I got my salary. It was the same next week, and the same next after, and the few days. The Duncan Rose came into only few once a week, while after that time he did not come at all. Mr. Wilson continued. A week after his past like this, I had written about Abbott's archery, etc. I hope that I might get on the bees soon. After that, suddenly the whole business came to an end. To an end, Holmes asked. Yes, sir. This morning I went to my work and usual at 10 o'clock, but the door was shut and locked with a little notice nailed on it. It said, The Red Hood Legue is dissolved on October 1880. I was shocked. I did not know what to do. Mr. Wilson went on with his story. I made inquiries with nearby office, but none of them knew anything about the league. The rooms were being rented under a false name. I went home and asked my assistant Plodding for advice, but he could not help me in any way. I want to find out about the league, Mr. Holmes, who they are and why they played this prank upon me. The whole thing is a mystery. This is why I came to you. I have heard a lot about you. Holmes found Mr. Wilson's story very unusual. He asked Mr. Wilson, their assistant of yours, who called first your attention to the advertisement. What is he like? Small, stout, with no hair on his face. He has a white splash of acid on his forehead. I thought as much, said Mrs. Holmes. Is he still with you? Oh, yes, sir. That will do, Mr. Wilson. I give you my opinion on the subject in a day. 2. Today's Saturday and my Monday, we will may come to the conclusion. Thank you. Conclusion. Now returns to the part 2. What happened next day? Dr. Watson account. Well, Watson, what do you think of it all asked Mr. Holmes, and Mr. Wilson had left. I make nothing of it, I asked frankly. Holmes sat silently for some time, and then he invited me to go out with him. We went into the square where Mr. Wilson had his shop. Holmes observed the area carefully. There were many shops and offices in the square, and a bank just behind Mr. Wilson's shop. Holmes spent some time outside the shop and thumped upon the pavement 2 or 3 times. Finally, he knocked the Wilson door. A young man opened the door. Mr. Holmes asked him the way to Strand. The assistant answered the question and quickly closed the door. I said, I'm sure that you inquired your way only in order to see him. Not him, Holmes said, but the knees of his trouser. And what did you see? What I expected to see. This matter of Wilson is serious. A crime is being planned, but I hope that we can stop it. The office in the bank was closed for a weekend. Now I have to go and make some arrangement, but I shall want your help tonight. Come to the Baker Street at 10 and bring your revolver. I arrived at home residence in time. There were 2 men with him, Mr. Jones of Scotland Yard, and Mr. Merryweather, a banker. Holmes announces tonight as going to hunt one of the smartest criminals in London. We left together in a carriage and reached the road we visited in the morning. Holmes told us to follow Mr. Merryweather, who led us an iron gate. We followed him down a narrow passage. After going down those stone steep, he led us down a dark, earthy smelling passage into a huge cellar full of big boxes. We all sat in the boxes. We are in the cellar of the city branch of one of the main banks of London. Mr. Merryweather is the chairman of the bank, and he will tell you why a criminal should take an interest in his cellar at present, said Mr. Holmes. Mr. Merryweather explained that the bank had borrowed a huge amount of gold from the Bank of France, and the boxes in the cellar were full of gold. Holmes expected the criminals to act that very night. They had to wait there in total darkness without making any noise to take criminal at surprise. They have but one escape route, whispered Holmes. There is a back through Mr. Holmes' house. I hope that some men were waiting at Mrs. Holmes' door, Mr. Jones. I have an inspector and 2 officers waiting in his door. Then we have stopped the holes. Now we must be silent and wait. We waited silently for more than an hour. It was pitch dark in the cellar. Suddenly a point of dark light appeared in the floor of the cellar, and then a line and a gash seemed to open, and a hang appeared. A boat stone turned over upside down and left in a squared hole. A boyish face emerged. The man looked about and came out of the hole. He had a companion with him, a man with red hair, the pair of none other than Spalding, the assistants Alice and criminal Clay, and the red-handled Mr. Duncan rose. As soon as they climbed out of the hole, Sherlock Holmes snatched and seized Clay by the collar. The other dived down the pole and disappeared. Clay took out a revolver, but Holmes hit him on his wrist, and the revolver fell in the floor. It's of no use, John Clay, said Holmes. We have got you. So I see, but my friend has escaped. Holmes replied, he cannot escape. There is 3 men waiting to him for another end. Then Holmes handed over Mr. Clay to the policeman. Mr. Merryweather said, really, Mr. Holmes, I don't know how to thank you. I have foiled one of the most cunning attempts at bank robbery. The bank is grateful to you. You see, Watson, Holmes said, after we reached at home, it is obvious from the first that the only possible object of a strange advertisement that a peculiar job was to get Mr. Wilson after from his shop from few hours a day. Red-headed Legue was a clever idea, and Mr. Wilson, absence Clay, and red-headed companion wanted to dig an underground tunnel for Mr. Wilson house to the bank. Then they would be able to enter the bank and steal the gold using without breaking open the doors. of the bank. Using the tunnel, they entered the cellars. They planned to steal the gold and go back to Mr. Wilson's house again through the tunnel and then get away. But how could you guess that their motive was? When when I heard that assistant worked for half a wages, I became suspicious. Using Mrs. Wilson's description of his assistant, I made inquiries. I found out that he is a criminal Clay. Why was he working in Clay's Wilson office and his habit of going into the cellar every now and then? I inferred that he must be digging a tunnel to some other building. When he visited the shop, I bet upon the pavement with a stick to find out whether there is a cellar stretched out in front of or behind. It was not in front. I saw the bank of the other side of the house, guessed that was the criminal had in mind. When Clay answered the bell, the knees of his trousers were wrinkled and strained. It confined me the suspicion that he was digging and know the rest of the story. Your reason is our beautifully, and I explained it administration. Thank you.